Wisdom class. Welcome to the next lesson in Chapter 4 in Cells and Classification. This is Lesson 47 and we'll be covering pages 91 to 93. This is Part 1 in this lesson. We'll do Part 2 in the next video. We're talking about classification in these two lessons. Classification is the grouping of organisms according to similar characteristics. For instance, if you are in my classroom, I can classify you as girls and boys, so I can classify you as some of you have glasses, some of you do not have glasses. It's just making a group because you have things that are in common or similar. This helps scientists to study these organisms better because these different groups have these characteristics in common. It makes it easier to study. This man, his name is Carlos Linnaeus. He was the first scientist to make this classification system. He is from Sweden, and he originally made these groups into two different groups, which is called Animalae and Plantae, so either animals or plants. But scientists found out later, the more they studied, that two groups were too small. So today's modern scientists have classified these organisms into 6 different groups. The first one is the kingdom Eubacteria. The next one is Archaebacteria. The third one is Protista. The fourth one is fungi. The fifth one is Plantae, or talking about plants. And the last one is Animalia. And humans are also grouped into this kingdom. The first one we'll talk about, and we're going to talk about the first 3 kingdoms in this lesson, is kingdom Eubacteria. All of these different organisms are bacteria, and they're everywhere. Some bacteria are good and some bacteria are bad. For instance, some bacteria, such as in yogurt, that is a good bacteria. It's good for your digestive system. But bacteria that could give you a cold, or bacteria that could give you a sore throat, that is bad bacteria. They're the smallest living organism known to man. And all of these are unicellular, meaning each organism is one cell, but it's a complete organism. They live in colonies or groups. But what's different about these is they don't have a true nucleus because their DNA floats in the cytoplasm. It doesn't have a nuclear membrane or a membrane around the nucleus, as in some cells that we learned about in previous lessons. So, and also some of these bacteria do not have certain organelles like some unicellular organisms do. The second one is called Archaebacteria. Now, it's very similar to normal bacteria, or the bacteria that is in the first group, but there are some differences with this group. It used to be that these 2 kinds of bacteria were grouped in the same kingdom. However, in studying them further, they realized that these bacteria were very, very special. Because of their chromosome and how the chromosomes are made, or how they're formed, or their structure, it makes them different. They are still unicellular like the first group, but what's special about these is they have a cell wall. Normally, when we think of cell walls, we think of plant cells, but these bacteria are special because they can live in very extreme environments. For instance, some can live without oxygen, and some can live in poisonous conditions, or very, very hot conditions like near a volcano, or places where it's very, very acidic. these also don't have a true nuclei and are missing some organisms like in the first group. The third group is called kingdom Protista. Now these are also unicellular, but these unicellular organisms, they don't fit in other groups. They're kind of unique. They do have cell membranes, and they do have a true nuclei, which is different from the first two kingdoms, which do not have true nuclei, or nucleuses. Nuclei is the plural. They reproduce by cell division, which we learned about in the previous lesson. And in this kingdom, they're divided into two groups called protozoans and algae. Protozoans, they usually live in pond water. And there are two examples here. There are more than just two examples, but these two examples, the first one is called a paramecium, and it moves around by those little tiny hairs that are connected to this organism, and they move actually rather quickly. The second one, which is in the little video clip, this is what we call an amoeba. Now this amoeba is kind of strange because it doesn't have a shape to it. It can change its shape, as you can see in this video clip. And in how it eats, it surrounds other unicellular organisms and then basically dissolves them. You can see that it surrounded these two paramecium, and eventually it will dissolve it and absorb the nutrients from that food. The second part of the Protista group is called algae, and you can see this is a layer of, kind of like a layer of, like a green blanket on top of this water. They don't, these different organisms, they don't move as fast as protozoans, but they do grow in colonies. And as you can see this layer of green. It feels like slime if you pick it up. It can't be seen without a microscope. And the reason why they're green is because these cells contain chlorophyll, and they can make food just like other plants can through photosynthesis. Okay, well, read pages 91 to 93 and be ready with some questions tomorrow, and I'll see you then.